Hello there, sweet friends. This is Gina. Welcome to the Rebookery channel. Today I am working in my This Is Me album. If you remember, this is a fabric journal that I made this summer out of my old baby clothes, and I'm just putting a lot of photos. It's very photo heavy. It's like a scrapbook photo album type thing of when I was growing up, and I'm keeping it between like 1970 to 1980, so just that time period. I think I've done some process videos on all of these spreads, maybe not all of them, but I've done some process videos. So what I wanted to do today was I'm working on a few pages. I started some yesterday, and then I'm working on a couple more pages. This is super simple because all I'm doing is just photos, very basic supplies. And so I'll show you my supplies. I've kind of limited myself to cards and stuff that my mom gave me from like when I was born and baby showers and things like that. So I'm using these as my like decorative papers and such. I'm making them into pockets and things like that. Then I'm also using some of my old golden books that were really falling apart and torn up, and I'm just pulling them apart and using them as like, you know, my background pages and stuff like that. So I'm trying to keep the supplies really bare minimum. I'm trying not to use a whole bunch of scrapbook supplies and things like that. However, I do have something that I've got going on today that I'm going to show you where I've pulled in some scrap. Okay, so here's where I left off. This was the last spread that I had done. It was this was my tree, and it was about my brother and I had this. I had this really cool greeting card that I used, and it folded out. So that was all done, but the inside was not finished, and I had places where I'd cut and stuff. So I filled this in with a letter that my mom had written me this summer, and then just a photo from 1972. I used the envelope that she sent to me and stuck that in right here. And now that's complete, and so then I'm on this page right here. So I found some letters that my mom had saved from when I was born. So this was a letter from my great Aunt Vincy, and I just tucked this in. I just used a craft knife, cut through here, cut through the top, and then just kind of made it a tag. I took the insert and put it over here. And then this is another letter from when I was born in 1971, and this is from my Aunt Vincy's sister, my great Aunt Grace. So I just put that in here. So now I am over to this spread, and this is what I worked on yesterday. So I was ready for these are my parents, and so I just found some photos of them. And just, again, tried to use basic supplies. So I took some of the spines from some of my golden books, and they were taped. So this is actual tape on top of them, and I just kept the tape and threw those on there with some washi tape. And then this was a spread that I worked on yesterday, which was This Is My Mom, and I finished this one up. And this is just a piece of wallpaper, so I thought that was a great background. So here's where I am right now. My mom and I did not live together in the 80s and the 90s. I lived with my dad for most of that time, and my mom lived on the East Coast for a while. So these are some letters that my mom had written me during that time, and I want to keep them, and I don't need to do anything to them. It's got the original envelope that I just opened up and made into like a little cover, and then I just put the letters in there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap these up, and I'm using a piece of fabric from one of my old dresses from when I was a little girl, and I'm just going to go ahead and put this on here, because to me there is nothing more comforting and it's just soul-soothing as seeing a package of envelopes, a package of letters. To me, that is just, I get such a neat feeling when I see a bunch of letters tied up with string or fabric or lace, And so I kind of wanted to do that with these letters from my mom. So very simply, I've just got those all connected, and there's some string hanging off, but that's okay. So my plan is I'm going to take this page right here, and this is the one where I'm going to say this is my dad, since I did this is my mom over on this one. And I'm going to pull in a piece of scrapbook paper for a couple of reasons. One, I need to tone down this green, and I also need some paper here to create that pocket. The other reason is, as I was trying to find paper to use, I came across this necktie paper, and while I don't really like to use literal things, I don't know, that's not my thing. This actually does have quite a bit of significance to this story I'm trying to tell, so I am going to use this paper. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue it on this side, and then I will glue it on the edges here, not on this edge. So this will become my pocket, and then these will be my photos that I add to this spread, and then I'll just put a title that says my dad, and then I'll be ready to move on to another page. So this is where I'm at right now, and I think what I'm going to do is just speed it up and have you guys watch as I go through this process. It's been a long time since I've actually done this journaling, so I just got through watching the video and trying to remember everything that I did in this session. This was a really long session. Like, this was the whole afternoon, and I just kind of let my camera run, and I ended up and did about 3 or 4 pages. I love working in this journal. I could just sit down and work in this journal every day, and it just gives me such a great feeling. It just I don't know, it just reminds me of just when I was a little kid, before, about the age of 10, and I don't know, I just really love that time period. I just have a lot of really cool memories about that time period. So anyway, I just kind of played around and did a lot of editing on this video to kind of get it somewhat manageable. I think I got it underneath a half hour. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of messing around with the paper and figuring out how I want this pocket to work. And I want the back side, there's just going to be a little bit on the top and a little bit on the bottom that's going to show through on the other page. And so I wanted this to have some sort of decoration. I didn't just want the white paper. So I'm just doing a few little floral stamps because they're kind of, retro and, kind of 1970s. So I just stuck a few little stamps on there, and that way when the paper peeks through, I'll be able to see just a little bit of decoration. So this is an actual newspaper clipping on the left-hand side. I did scan it, and I did print out a copy of it, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and use the newspaper. It's been around for this long, and it's torn up, and I'm okay with it. So I just went ahead and put the newspaper clipping down, and then the bottom was kind of all torn up, and I thought that would be a great place to put another picture. So I had one picture in mind, and then I decided to change it, and this is a picture of my mom and dad when they got married, and this was them in their car as they were leaving the church. So now I'm just gluing down the right-hand side, just using a lot of glue on my glue stick. And it's really easy to work in this journal now because, one, it's a fabric journal, and it's just very flexible. It's very easy to maneuver the pages and stuff in this journal. The other reason is because I didn't overload it with paper, and I didn't overload it with a lot of signatures. So there's a lot of room to grow in this journal, and that's one thing about my fabric journals that I started making this summer. I really like the ability for you to grow in those journals. And they just don't get I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the hardback journals, which I love, but sometimes I feel like they're a little cumbersome, especially when you start to fill them up. So these fabric journals, especially this one in particular, it's just so comforting to hold and to work in, and I just love it. And then the soft fabrics, of course, I love. So I'm just playing around with some photos here. In the upper right-hand corner, that is a photo of my dad when he was in Vietnam. So that was actually like a year or two before I was born. And then there's a picture of my mom and dad in the late 70s, early 90s, when my dad was working at a company that he worked for a long time. And I'm wanting to put that picture in, but there was a lot of background that I didn't need, so I was able to trim the picture, and it just happened to fit right in that little birth announcement card. And so I wanted to keep, anytime my mom had written on the back of the photos, I wanted to keep her handwriting visible. So if you see me making a flap from a photo, that's just because I want to make sure that I leave my mom's handwriting so that I can always go back and look at it, because I always like to see my mom's handwriting, and I always like to read what she wrote. So that's what I'm doing down there with that picture. And then I'm just going to take an old Denison label, and I mean it is really old because you can see it's all curled up. I'm going to take an old Denison label and put it on that picture of my dad from Vietnam. And these pictures were taken on a different type of film, so they are really, really thick pictures, like they have a card backing to them. And if I don't know what the name of the film is, but I know you know what I'm talking about. There are just older pictures in the 60s and 70s that are on this really thick card, and you don't want to pull the card backing off, but it's just a really cool photo. And so I did want to put the date on there, and so that's why I used that little Denison label. And then you'll see that I actually take that picture in a few minutes, and after I did all of that, I actually move it because I decided that it didn't really go in the spot that I had it in. So just kind of thumbing through, finding some more cards and ephemera that I want to add. This was a little card from probably some flowers or something that I had gotten sent, and it actually was from my dad, and it was my dad's handwriting. And I can't think when he sent those flowers to me. It was like when I was an adult. So I found that card, and I thought, well, I'll just put that card in there too, since I've got some stuff of my mom's handwriting. I'll put some stuff of my dad's handwriting. So here's where I decided to move the picture. And so thank goodness that tape works. It works really well. It holds everything very, very well. But I was able to, because that picture was so thick, I was able to actually pull it up without anything ripping. So no big deal, just moving it down to the bottom of the page. And then I decide again that, I want to let the back of the photo show so that I can see my mom's handwriting. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want to turn this into a flap, and do I want it to fold up or down or to the side? And is there something else I could put on the back? And I found a small picture of my mom and dad on their wedding, and so I just cropped it and stuck it on the back of this photo, and then had it fold out to the side so that it's like a flap, and I can see my mom's handwriting, and then I can see that other picture. And I was just using washi tape to hold the pictures in. So I don't even think I used a glue stick. A lot of times I'll run a glue stick on it, but I don't even think I did that this time. I just put the washi tape down. And I'm treating this journal like a photo album / scrapbook, where you're just kind of pasting the photos in, like an old-timey scrapbook where people would just tape in photos or paste in the photos. And that's kind of how I'm treating this. It's just a memory album of a lot of different photos, and I'm just kind of taping them in and making it really, really basic, not trying to over embellish or make it all matchy, just kind of throwing a hodgepodge together. And I love it. That is so my style. So now I'm going to make the pocket over here on this left-hand side, and I have to make sure that my little envelopes will fit, and they actually didn't, so I needed to pull my glue down a little bit. That's another reason why I love that tape runner. It's because before it sets, you can actually manipulate it a little bit. So once I pulled some of the glue down, then there was enough room for my letters to fit into that pocket. And I just needed to add a few more pieces of adhesive to make sure that card was stuck down. And there was lots of flaps, and I had that teeny tiny piece of that Denison label left over. So I'm going to put it at the top of the page above that picture of my mom and dad. And pretty much this spread about my dad is done. And I want to just keep going because I got so much mojo going right now. I want to just go ahead and move on to the next page. And so that's actually what I do. So this next page, since I did, this is my mom, this is my dad, this next page is going to be, this is my brother. And I had a lot of photos I wanted to use for this page, and this one actually took me a long time. So I edited a whole bunch of this out just because there was so many things that I wanted to say, and it did not stay on these 2 pages that you see right here. It actually oozed into a pocket, and then there were 2 more pages that I actually used just because there were just so many things that I wanted to write down and commemorate about my brother and during this, us during this time period. Sticking to my limited supplies, you're going to see how I get really creative with a golden book, and I'm not necessarily using the pages. So let's say you have a golden book that maybe your story is not your favorite story, or maybe it's just the pages can't be used, or maybe you've used up all the pages and all you have left are really the covers. The covers can still be used. Like you can use almost every single piece of a golden book, and you're going to see me do that. I love pulling the covers apart, like splicing the covers and pulling the paper off and using the backing paper, using the front cover paper, using the back cover paper, and just I love it though, because golden books were such a big part of my childhood and growing up. I feel like that's the perfect ephemera to add to this journal and to add to my memory keeping of this time period. So I'm going to use this end paper, and it's actually got my brother's handwriting on it. And I'm going to back it onto a, let's see, I'm going to use a book page from an old Mickey Mouse book that was mine. And then I'm going to put a photo of my brother. Now, the Mickey Mouse page that I put on there, it actually has some meaning. So my brother was always in trouble. Like, he was always doing something to get in trouble. He wasn't a bad kid. He just was always in trouble. Like, he always was finding things to get in trouble. Like, one time he tied the hose to my mom's bumper. He wasn't doing it to be mean. He just did it because he was playing one day, and he was playing dump trucks in the driveway or whatever, and he tied the bumper, the hose to the bumper. My mom didn't know it until she pulled out of the driveway and pulled the bumper off her car. Anyway, so that picture that I picked out from that Mickey Mouse book was, it's Mickey Mouse's Picnic, which was one of my favorite stories when I was growing up. And it was about Donald Duck, and I think he had done something, and everybody else in the whole Mickey Mouse gang was mad at him. And so the picture was at the end of the book when they were all mad at him, and he's just standing there with that look on his face like, what did I do? And that just reminded me of my brother, because that's always what my brother was like. What did I do? So that picture, I thought, or that, photo was fitting to go with that book page. And then here's a picture of my brother, and I'm just backing it on to, just like a piece of a card there. And just going to go over it and outline to kind of give it a little bit of a border. And then I'm going to try to find a book page that's going to go on this left-hand side. Now, I already had a book page over there. I think it was a Winnie the Pooh book page, but that really wasn't my brother. That was cute, and I loved it, but that just really wasn't my brother. I needed something that showed more of his orneriness. So I go digging in my stash of golden books, and I actually find the perfect book page here, and I'll show you in just a second when I work on it. But right now what I'm doing is I'm just jotting down some journaling, just some thoughts, some things I wanted to say about my brother and about him always getting in trouble and about a nickname that my grandpa had given him. And notice my writing is just kind of all over the place. Like I didn't write in a paragraph form or anything. I just started writing down sentences, almost like just I was describing him. I was writing down attributes of him, and that I was okay with it. That was really cool. So now I found Dennis the Menace, an old Dennis the Menace book. And it got me thinking about my brother, but I didn't really like the one book page I had. So I searched through it, and I found this picture that was perfect, because my brother and we loved stuffed animals when we were younger. Oh my gosh, we loved stuffed animals, and we had so many stuffed animals, and we would put them to bed every night, and we would tuck them in, and they all had names. And so this picture of Dennis the Menace sitting in bed with his teddy bear on his bed, it just got me thinking about, oh my gosh, in my brother's room, we would have all of our stuffed animals. And if I would sleep in my brother's room, I would bring all my stuffed animals in. If he would sleep in my room, he'd bring all his stuffed animals in. And oh my gosh, it was just like, it was so cool. So that that book page actually is going to be perfect for what I want to say. So then I start searching around for some more photos. And I have a lot of photos, and I don't have enough space. So I have to go over to another page, and I'm okay with that. I'm fine with going on to another page, and I'm going to add a flap here so I can get a couple more photos in for just the space of one. Kind of going back and forth from these pages. Like I said, there's a lot that I cut out that I didn't include in this video, because I really just spent a lot of time looking at the pages, and I'd work on one page for a minute, and then I'd flip back over to the other page for a minute and decide, what picture do I want to go here? What picture do I want to go there? I found a picture of my brother and my grandpa, and I thought that would be a very fitting picture on the left-hand side. And so once I put it down, the text that was on the book page that I actually put the picture on actually had a sentence about, I don't know, being in trouble or something. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's perfect, because it was right above the photo of my brother. So I went ahead and outlined that, and then I just did some messy border around the picture. I actually tried to make my border not so messy by using a ruler, but it turned out messy anyway, so oh well, no big deal. And then I'm going to pull out my alphabet stickers, and I'm going to put a title, and I'm going to put it across the Dennis the Menace book page. And I think what I wrote was, this is my brother, and I just used some random alphabet stickers that I had. I don't know if they all matched. I can't remember if I used all the same color. Oh yeah, it looks like I did. And then just, again, started writing some little descriptions about how we had stuffed animals all the time. And my brother loved Garfield and Heathcliff and Odie. And I know I have some of those stickers in my old sticker stash, so I pulled some of those out. And I kind of was sprinkling them around the page so that it kind of looked like the stuffed animals that we would have, on our bed. I found a sticker of Grover, and it says, "I'm a cute little monster." And I love that because we loved Sesame Street, and that's exactly how I felt about my brother. He was a monster. He was cute. But he was, like I said, he was always in some sort of trouble. And he wasn't a mean kid. He wasn't a bad kid. It's just trouble always found him. Now, I don't know, because I can't tell where I am here in the video, but if you just saw me put down, I think I just put down a wrapper to a black crayon. So here was another thing that drove me nuts about my brother. His favorite color was black. And it would just drive me nuts because I'm like, how could black be your favorite color? And so I grabbed a crayon and just pulled the wrapper off, and I put that underneath his picture, because that was something I wanted to remember too, is that black was his favorite color, and that always just drove me nuts. So now I'm working on these last 2 pages, and I'm going to use that Grover sticker. And then I love the photo of my brother on my dad's shoulders, and I think it works really well up there in that right hand corner. So I kind of tuck it in. There's some lace or something that was on the edge of the paper, so I kind of tuck it in there. And then I'm going to use the space below for a flap, because I have 2 photos that I glued back to back, and so I'll just put those in there. And then on the left hand side, this is a picture of my brother, and I'm going to use, again, a little golden book. This is just the backing of one of my little golden books, and it was probably one that was mine at this time period. And I'm just going to use it as the backing for the photo, because again, that was my life. That was what we did. We would sit on the porch swing in the afternoons, and my mom would read to us, and it was just a fun little time. So I'm going to put the picture down on top of that and just kind of look around, seeing what I have going on here, looking at my pockets. I really, really like how this is turning out, and sad thing is I was running out of time and I had to stop for the day. So this is where I'm going to end my video. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're happy. And don't forget, Wednesday, October 17th at 8 a.m., I have my journal kits that are going to be in my Etsy shop with golden books, childcraft books, and then some work basket magazines and some handcrafted embellishments and tags with a little bit of strawberry shortcake. And then next weekend, I will be revealing to you guys my Christmas journal kits that I've got coming up. And yeah, it's an exciting time. So guys, take care. I will talk to you soon. Bye.